Hi friends, welcome to my channel. Today I have got one book which I finished yesterday. I have interest in Hindi film industry, especially the history of Hindi cinema, 40s, 50s, 60s. So the book I am going to talk about today is biography of one of the legendary directors of Hindi cinema, Vijay Anand, also known as Goldie. So that's a book, Vijay Anand by Anitaa Padhye. So Anitaa Padhye has written this very detailed biography. So when I picked up the book, I did not really have a lot of expectations from the book. I thought, okay, this would be a hurriedly put together biography. But as I started reading, I realized that there's a lot of depth in it. There is a lot of details in this, especially for someone who's interested in Hindi cinema and who's interested in Vijay Anand. So even today, when you talk to uh, filmmakers who have made interesting films, like Sriram Raghavan, who made Andhadhun, if you ask him about one director from Hindi cinema which has influenced him the most and which has impressed him the most, he would take the name of Vijay Anand. That's the kind of influence Vijay Anand has had on Hindi films, especially on directors and editors looking back at his films, because they are considered the gold standard of direction. So let's start with the book. So the book is detailed to the extent that it gives uh, the personal biography of Vijay Anand nicely. So he was born in 1934 and he passed away in 2003. So roughly he lived to the age of 69. And His journey started in 1934. He was born. Uh, he has two elder brothers. One is Chetan Anand, who was 13 years his senior, and Dev Anand, who is 11 years elder to him. So they both, Chetan Anand and Dev Anand, had tremendous influence on him. In fact, Vijay Anand lived when he was 7 or 8 years old. He actually was living with Chetan Anand, who had become a father figure for him. And Chetan Anand's wife, Uma, at that time, she was a mother figure for Vijay Anand. So it so happened that around 1940s, Chetan Anand had got married to Uma, who was a Christian, much against his own father's wishes. And eventually he got his family to agree. And Chetan Anand and Uma shifted to Dehradun, where Chetan Anand was teaching at Doon School. So Vijay Anand was enrolled in Doon School and he studied there. And in the book, it comes out that Vijay Anand was a bit hesitant. He felt uncomfortable among kids who were very fluent in English, and he was kind of lost. At that time, Chetan Anand had interest in writing, storytelling, and films. So he wrote a script, and he went to Bombay and try his luck at filmmaking. So Vijay Anand and Uma, Chetan's wife, they stayed back in Doon. And after some time, the entire family shifted to Bombay, by which time Chetan Anand had made the film Nicha Nagar, which won the Cannes Awards, which was a big deal. This was in 1946. So then Chetan Anand got enrolled in school in Bombay, and while studying and growing up, he could see that Chetan Anand was making films, and then Chetan and Dev Anand collaborated and they set up Navketan sometime in 1949. So Navketan banner was born in sometime in 1949. At that time, Vijay Anand was very young. He was a student in school, but he was showing interest in art. He was showing interest in writing. He always had this interest in philosophy. So all these things were happening to him at that time. Vijay Anand was taking a lot of interest in storytelling and dramatics and theatre. And when he went to college at St. Xavier's, Bombay, he became very heavily involved in not just theatre and writing. He actually wrote original plays, which won many awards and a lot of acclaim in the inter-college competition. So he was showing signs of being a writer, being a creative person, somebody who could think of a story and narrate a story. So, as luck would have it, Chetan and Dev were struggling with the Navketan banner. They had made a few films. Some were successful, others were not. So, as luck would have it, in 1957, um Chetan and Dev, they asked Vijay Anand to work on a script. So the film was Nodo Gyara. The story was written by Vijay Anand, and he directed the film also. And in that movie itself, you could see the shades of the trademark Vijay Anand direction and his flair. Uh, the way he picturized songs, the way he conceived scenes, the way he edited the film. So the film was released. It was successful. People appreciated the film that he had made, and then he decided to make one more film for Navketan, which was Kalapani, which again did very well. Then he made. Then a film was made which officially is not credited to Vijay Anand. He does not have the credit, but everyone who was involved in the film knows that it was the story and direction of Vijay Anand. So the film was Hum Dono, which is obviously a landmark film. The music, the movie, the picturization of songs, the way the film was edited, the way he extracted performances from Devanand in a double role. But there's a lot of backstory of Hum Dono in this book. So you would, if you're interested in trivia and information about how uh, the film was made, what was happening behind the scenes, so there's enough meat in this book. And then came the golden period of Vijay Anand's life. He directed Guide, Teesri Manzil, Johnny Mera Naam, and Jewel Thief. All these four films were made within a period of 5 years. So this was, I would say, the creative peak of Vijay Anand, because these four films define, in a way, what Hindi cinema stands for. So each film has a unique backstory. So this book gives a detailed backstory of Guide. So to put it very briefly, Guide is based on R.K. Narayan's novel, and initially it was planned as a international production. So it was to be shot in English and Hindi, and Devanand requested Vijay Anand to work on the film. But when Vijay Anand was told that the film would be shot simultaneously, the first shot would be taken by English director Ted, and then immediately afterwards a Hindi shot would be taken. So Vijay Anand flatly refused. He said, I will not work on the film. There is no creative freedom. The way you have conceived the film, the way it is being directed, I have no contribution to make. But if you want me on board, I will do the screenplay, I'll write it, and I'll shoot it the way I want to. So after a lot of tussle, back and forth, and all that, eventually Devanand gave in. And that was the best decision that Devanand took, because English version was shot and then it was released and it bombed and no one remembers it. But the Hindi version, on which Vijay Anand took a lot of time to write the screenplay, develop the story, bring in the characters, and look at their character arc. Very interesting treatment. And when the film was released, it was a big success in Hindi. And interestingly, if you look at the film, this is one of the very few films where all three lead characters, Rosie, her husband, and Raju, the guide, played by Devanand, they all have got shades of negative characters. But interestingly, Vijay Anand handled it very maturely. So the film was a great success. So there's a lot of backstory about Guide, what was happening, the relationship between Vijay Anand and Devanand. Interestingly, Vijay Anand calls his brother Devanand Dev Papa. In fact, Chetan and Dev have been like father figure for Vijay Anand. So there is a lot of interesting backstories on Jewel Thief, how they took Vajanti Mala, and how she created tantrums, and she did not get along well with the director, but it does not really show in the film. Johnny Mera Naam was produced by Gulshan Rai. It was initially called Do Roop, and then Gulshan Rai's Pandit had told him that he should make a film starting with the word J, and that's how the name was changed to Johnny Mera Naam. And there's a story of a lot of behind the scenes stories of how Hema Malini was taken for the film, how Vijay Anand worked with Hema Malini to get her to act properly in the film. So the film was a great success, and Jewel Thief was a big success. Johnny Mera Naam was a big success. Teesri Manzil actually was interesting. Vijay Anand and Shami Kapoor were close friends, but somehow during the making of the film, there was always a tussle between Shami Kapoor and Vijay Anand. So much so that after the film was made and it was successful, Vijay Anand decided that he will not work with Shami Kapoor because his friendship with Shami Kapoor would suffer if they worked together, and they never worked together again. So there is this story of lot of stories on Teesri Manzil. So if you enjoyed the film, then you should read the book. There is a lot of meat in this, a lot of interesting stuff, some very funny incidents. So it would be good if you discover them through reading the book. And as luck would have it, like any creative person, Vijay Anand after that lost his way. He made Tere Mere Sapne. He had this desire to act always. He acted in films in the early 60s also, a few films, and he continued to act in 70s and 80s. Now one could say that okay, I mean, everyone has their own quirks. He was a great director. As an actor also he was good, but probably because of the way Hindi films are structured and an actor or hero is supposed to perform many things, uh, Vijay Anand probably did not fit the bill. But that's another matter. Interestingly, in this book, what comes out is the fact that Chetan Anand and Devanand had their creative differences with Goldie, which is Vijay Anand, and they actually worked together in 70s also, but it was not the same thing. Uh, one Two things happened in Vijay Anand's life, which in a way took him away from not just his brothers but also from the Bombay film industry. Sometime in the late 60s, Vijay Anand met Rajneesh, who is known as Osho today, but he was Rajneesh at that time. In fact, he was Rajneesh throughout his life till the day he died. Later on, he was called Acharya Rajneesh. Then, when he became popular, he was called Guru Rajneesh. And after he passed away, the name was changed to Osho, but that's another story. So he came under the influence of Rajneesh because right from a young age, Vijay Anand has this spiritual bent of mind. He was seeking answers to questions like why are we born? What is the purpose of our life? Why do we need to suffer so much? And a whole lot of things. So he found a spirit in Rajneesh which he could relate to. So their bond deepened. At that time, Rajneesh was also becoming on his way to becoming popular. At that time, he used to come from Jabalpur to Bombay, stay there for a few days and then go back. Then he shifted this base to Bombay, and then he shifted to eventually Pune, where he set up his ashram. This was a journey of 7 8 years. Throughout that time, Vijay Anand was very close to him, very influenced by him, wearing kurtas and malas and all that. Later on, other people joined Rajneesh, Mahesh Bhatt, Vinod Khanna. So but they all got disillusioned with Rajneesh. So all the followers of Osho, just be a little careful and just calm down because eventually um, you would see through the man. So what happened was that one trigger was that when Vijayanand saw Rajneesh getting vindictive with his followers who left him, Vijayanand could not reconcile the fact that a learned, wise man like him is resorting to such petty things. So the entire facade of a guru fell apart, and then he left Rajneesh sometime in 1975-76, and he came back. He made some more films like Bullet with Devanand, which did not do well. Then he made one film with Ramsey Brothers. There's an entire story there. Please read it. He also directed a film with Dharmendra and Amitabh Bachchan, Ram Balram. So one thing that comes out, which I felt, was that for some reason Vijayanand was probably a naive man or a simple man. He would take everyone very seriously if somebody made a promise to him, and it would hurt him a lot if they did not keep the promise, which I think is a sure way of causing problems for yourself, because people are what they are. You can't control them, you can't change them. But if you start getting affected by how people are behaving, then you are doing a lot of damage to yourself. But somehow Vijay Anand suffered a lot because of that. He had grudge against Gulshan Rai. He had grudge against whole lot of producer and directors he was working with. He had a problem with Dharmendra in Ram Balram. He had a problem with Rekha in a movie called Ghungru Ki Awaaz. So he was taking things personally. And I mean, I wish somebody could have told him that it's nothing personal. People do things because it suits them, right? Why should you get affected by it? But sadly, he got so affected. So I'll give an example. Gulshan Rai was making Johnny Mera Naam, and he had promised Vijay Anand a share of the profit. He had promised Devanand a fee of 12 lakh rupees, and he gave him 10 lakhs and then said, once the film is successful, I'll pay you the balance 2 lakhs. And he did not keep his promise either to Vijay Anand or Devanand. Vijay Anand's reaction was extreme. I mean, he said that, look, I will never see this man again. How can somebody go back on their promise? Why are people like this, right? And he never worked with Gulshan Rai again. And Devanand's reaction was, these things happen. He could not pay me 2 lakh. What's the big deal? Why should I lose sleep over it? And sure enough, the next film that Gulshan Rai made, he took Devanand as hero, and Devanand had no problem. That movie was Joshila, which was Yash Chopra's first film as independent director. So the point is that, if you are going to get affected by people, right, how they behave, what they say to you, you are damaging yourself. You are really not helping the cause. I feel sad for Vijay Anand because so much of talent got wasted because he just could not take the fact that people behave in a certain way. So anyway, a lot of stories about Navketan Banner, those films, and I can go on and on. Vijay Anand passed away in 2003, and he never made. He made some serials. He made some more films, but they are all forgettable. He thought of reuniting with Dev and Chetan. They tried something, all very forgettable. But this book definitely is very readable. You should. Okay, that's. I read it on Kindle. A good job. There's one more book that has come out, which is called Hum Dono, which is the Jugalbandi of Dev and Vijay. That book got published only, I think, last week. I have not read it. So once I read it, I'll put the review for that also. And tell me in the comments your favorite Vijay Anand film. Um, and thank you very much for watching. And I'll see you again soon. Thank you.